I'm Trish Toby with WARC reporting to you live from Westchester, New York, where there appears to be some sort of mutant menace on the loose.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Ocamp.
And I'm Pat Rebe.
And this is Mutant
Menace. Pete?
How are you we still have only gotten a name from Pete. So if you guys don't want to keep hearing us address Pete every episode. Oh, speaking of, Pat.
Yes.
You got anything for Pat's email corner?
Oh my goodness, we're jumping right into Pat's email corner. We'll figure out. So yes, we do have some fresh emails through. This is from listener Jules. Hey Pat, tell Matt that his joke from episode 10 that he specifically requested for listeners to email in and validate was indeed funny. I'd specify which joke that was, but I'm confident he'll definitely remember by the time you read this email.
Jesus, these people have got our fucking number, man. I have no idea what Jules is talking about.
They are straight up mocking you here, man. Joking aside, Pat's comment from the same episode, I'm going to pause there. Jules, I appreciate you writing in. You do not have to refer to me in the third person. You're writing an email to me.
No, they're writing an email to me through you. You're telling me that they said Pat's comment.
Sentence structure here should be, joking aside, your comment, Pat, from the same episode. Like, it's my email corner.
All right. Read it how you think it should be written.
Joking aside, Pat, your comment from the same episode about wanting
my
a
comment?
mini-series.
My comment?
No,
Pat, you just said your comment, meaning me.
My comment.
Oh, okay, so you should have said that.
So, okay, you want me to read it to you the way that I would read it to, or I would pass the news along to you. Joking aside, Matt, my comment from the same episode about wanting a miniseries where Hank and Bobby hitchhike across the country reminded them that something like that does exist. Road Trip from X-Men First Class Volume 2, Number 4 is a single-issue story where a young Hank and Bobby borrow one of Warren's expensive cars for a cross-country road trip. It's a quick, painless read that I would recommend to you and your listeners, especially if they like stories about what the X-Men do on their off time. Love that. That sounds like a great recommendation. That's all I want to see.
That's fun because what that says to me is that somebody read those early issues and had the same sorts of observations as us. Like the Hank and Bobby stuff is great. It sucks that Warren always has cars.
One more chunk here from Jules. Bonus question for the pod. What are some of your favorite X-Men downtime activities?
I mean, the obvious is basketball, right? The basketball scenes always rule. Later, way later.
Is that how you interpreted this question? I wasn't sure if it was, what are your favorite things that the X-Men do in their downtime? What are your favorite things that you do relating to the X-Men in your downtime?
You're the only person on Earth who thinks about that question. Who thinks about the question, what X-Men related thing did you do?
Matt, did you do anything X-Men related this week?
I also like when they all go swim in the mansion's pool. The pool and basketball scenes I like. Those are all like 90s trends. Okay, what did I do X-Men related? Absolutely nothing. I've been in the drunken stage of like new relationships lately. A new relationship, and that way that it like sort of parasitically grabs onto your mind. So I've just been a fucking idiot doing nothing. But I did do something comic book related.
What'd you do?
I read, do you know James Tynion?
Yeah, of course.
He wrote
a bunch of Batman.
There you go. I've been catching up on his series, or his like expanded universe. Something is Killing the Children. Do you know that series?
No.
It's sort of like a somewhat horror series and like a monster hunting action series.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
it is about the Order of St. George, still alive and extant in a small chapter in the United States. And they raise monster hunters who go out and they find monsters that have sort of been generated by the imaginations of children and have been killing things and kill those monsters.
That sounds sick.
It rules. It
That
rules.
sounds awesome.
And it's so there's 8 trade paperbacks so far. I just read the last 3 because I'd been reading this some time ago. But since then, James Tynion has expanded it into a book called The House of Slaughter, and it is about this house of the Order of St. George and all the other characters that in something is killing the children. You're following Erica Slaughter, one character, but in this other thing, you're following other characters from the Order.
Okay, it's like it's got its own spin-off series that he's also writing.
Yes, and
Nice.
it rules. It's not X-Men, but it's good comics.
Are we saying that this episode, the X-Men are good comics?
Have you been doing anything X-Men related this week?
I'll tell you, Matt, sort of.
Oh, shit.
A lot of content, I shouldn't say content, a lot of people talking to me that...
Hold on. Are you saying, do you sometimes in your life think of in-person, face-to-face interactions as content?
I was hoping we would blow right by that one.
You were hoping you would be able to edit that out, but there's no way we could pass by this.
So it was mostly group chats. Ashley Stoneman, have you heard this name? Ash Stoneman from the Very Worst podcast that was our frequent collaborator.
No, I don't.
Co-host.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Anyway, she asked in 3 separate group chats if I've ever been punched in the face.
I'm only in one group chat. No, I think I'm in 2 group chats with her.
The answer is yes. Matt, I think your answer was yes as well.
No, not since I was
right.
like a little kid.
Not since you were a child.
I got in so many fights in early elementary school before they put me on Ritalin. So you have been punched in the face, you said.
I have been punched, yeah, as an adult man, not in a long time, but as a young adult, I have definitely been punched in the face. I think it's good for you.
Will you tell one of your punched in the face stories?
Sure. I spent a very brief time at college. I spent 1 year at college. And so this might still qualify as a child, but technically I'm an adult at this point. And I have a friend who was selling weed and he got ripped off. His name was Joey. We called him Jojo. He got like a stack of ones. It was like a quick shady exchange. So he didn't count the money. He walked away and found out that he'd been given like $5 for $50 worth of weed or whatever.
Sure.
Jojo confronted the scammer and the scammer went and hid. And so we all went out to party that night and he shows up at that party with a whole bunch of people. They gang up on Jojo and hold us back from participating. There's a brief fight. We all go back to the dorms and then there's a huge fight in the yard at the dorms that I was involved with. Just like 20 people swinging blind punches. I'm not a fighter, but I did.
And was this like young dumb kids fighting? Like nobody walked away hospitalized or...
Right. My roommate was super drunk and he was leading the charge. He was just like he hated this guy that ripped off Jojo. So
I hate him too. And listeners, write in a Pat's email corner if you hate the guy who ripped off Jojo.
Yeah. Or if you just hate being ripped off when you're trying to sell people weed, emails.
If you have a ripped off while selling people weed story,
mutantmenacepod@gmail.com.
If it involves the X-Men, even better.
So my roommate was super drunk. He actually got escorted away by the police because we were all underage. And yeah,
the
that's
police
one of my
broke up the fight.
Punched in the face stories. So the fight ended, the police came by, and my roommate, who was super drunk, was still shouting
okay.
at everybody.
Is this a friend you still have?
No. We never saw him again. No, I dropped out of college, so I lost contact with everyone there because it was a terrible experience.
Okay. Well, that's a great punch in the face story, Pat. Do you want to read and talk about a bunch of other grown men punching each other in the face?
Yeah, absolutely I do. Issue 63, War in the World Below.
Okay.
Stanley editor, Roy Thomas writer, Neal Adams artist, Tom Palmer embellisher, Sam Rosen letterer. I really think it's disrespectful to call the inker embellisher. I don't.
It's like they're because it's like they're saying they're lying.
Yeah. Release date October 14th, 1969. Cover date December 1969. The last official X-Men issue of the 60s.
It was December of 69.
Magneto is back, bitch, and gloating over the way he deceived Angel last issue. He sits in front of his big sci-fi computer while Angel flies off to confront the X-Men and Kazar to broker a truce between them and the Savage Land Mutants. I'm sure everybody remembers all that from last episode. As Angel approaches Kazar and the other X-Men, they ponder over whether that could really be Angel, as he should be back in New York and he's wearing a different costume. While they ponder over this, Kazar beats the utter hell out of Angel.
Yeah, fucking rocks him, pulls a tree out of the ground and smacks him with it.
Smacks him out of the air and then punches him just to add insult to injury. It seems like we already got hit by a tree.
The X-Men are like just sitting there like, is that Warren? Is that not? And Kazar's like, I don't give a shit. And beats him up.
If you love watching Warren lose, this is really
great
well done.
Series of issues for Warren losing. It's so funny. Even if you don't read the text, it's like Kazar pulls a tree out of the ground, smacks Warren, punches him in the face, and then he's on the ground like impotently reaching out after Kazar as Kazar runs away. And then there's one of those panels of him like looking at it, like shaking his fist and looking at his fist like, dang it. Like, I lost.
Angel's first lines of the issue are, and hold it. Oomph. Once the X-Men finally realize it's Warren and let Kazar know, he loses interest and stomps away. Warren then tells the X-Men about his adventures last issue, how he fucking died and a guy called the Creator brought him back to life. He finishes explaining just in time to see Gaza and Amphibious, two of the Savage Land Mutants, attack Kazar with an army of swamp people. Kazar and Beast, but no one else, fight the army while Warren begins to realize he was deceived. Never learning his lesson, he rushes off to confront the Creator alone.
Of course he does.
Angel arrives in time to hear the Creator and Brainchild talking over their plans and learns first that the Creator doesn't find and help mutants like Professor Xavier, but captures natives of the Savage Land and turns them into mutates. Second, the Creator is actually Magneto. Magneto explains that he did not die back when he fought the X-Men and the Avengers, but traveled into the caves underneath the earth, eventually finding the Savage Land. Then something off panel glows and Angel gets really upset.
There is so much happening beneath the earth in the Marvel Universe. Even in this 60 issues of X-Men, there's Tyrannus and his whole army, right? There is Mole Man and his whole army. There is Grotesque and his whole civilization. And now, apparently, there's enough caves that it leads all the way to Antarctica and the Savage Land.
Don't forget the super adaptoid.
So much. It's so busy down there. Must be just. Well, that's okay. Retroactively, now I really like the Tyrannus Mole Man issue concept. It's like there's so much going on down there. They have to start squabbling with each other.
Well, while Magneto is explaining how he survived, sorry, that's a very funny point. I didn't think of that, but yeah, of course they hate each other. There's
so many of them down there.
There's so little space left down there.
They're like, I just moved because Grotesque was in my fucking backyard, and now Mole Man is here. I'm not moving again.
Magneto also explains that when he reached a certain section of barreling through the layers of the earth, he reached a layer that was rich with alloys that humans would never know. Just another... it doesn't come up again. I think it's just to explain how he's able to transit through sub-Earth, because there's just strange metal alloys, valuable alloys growing in the ground.
That we will never discover. Elements that we have never found.
Yes.
Magnetoium.
If someone wants to explore that in the future, there's a whole other layer.
Molemanium. Grotesquium.
Hard cut. Back to the issue, where we have a hard cut to Kazar and Beast wrapping up their fight with the defeated Swamp Men. They finally decide to team up and raid the Creator's base, but when Cyclops blasts through the wall, a weird naked man screams, and a dozen wolves leap out and attack them.
And that is the sort of nonsense that like a child would say if he was like writing a comic book. And then Cyclops blasts into the fort, and then 10 wolves jump out, and they have to fight all of them. But no, this happens in the comic.
Kazar's saber-toothed tiger, Zabu, takes the wolves out in like a second, scares them all off, and the X-Men push deeper into the fort. Brainchild helps Amphibious set up a little ambush by determining which stone on the wall would make the entire thing collapse. But Marvel Girl just knocks the rubble away telekinetically. They subdue the two mutates and force them to lead them to their leader, which they now see is Magneto. This is the third Magneto reveal of the issue. Magneto introduces them to his newest mutate, Lorelei, who sings a song that entrances all of the heroes in the room that are male.
Yeah.
Marvel Girl, who I guess is so aggressively heterosexual that Lorelei's powers don't work on her, duels Magneto back and forth for a bit until Jean has the legit brilliant idea of just lifting Scott's visor with telekinesis.
So good.
Causing him to smash Magneto's mutate creator machine to bits. Once again, the X-Men flee the castle while presuming that Magneto, surely this time, is dead under the rubble. With the machine gone, the mutates turn back into swamp people, and the X-Men tell Kazar they'd rather not have powers. The end.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we would... He's like, who would give up so much power? And Cyclops is like, well, us five. Weird. And that's not true of Angel, at least, right? Angel fucking loves being Angel, even though he sucks at it.
Yes. Yeah, he loves getting beat up. And to his credit, I know we talked about this a couple episodes back, but he pushes through. He's seen worse playing basketball or whatever.
Yeah. This is another instance of a fight with Magneto ending with a big explosion. The X-Men get out just in time, and they just assume Magneto's dead. It's like there's two ways for an Magneto and X-Men confrontation to end. It's that exact thing, or it is Magneto trying to blow up the X-Men, and the X-Men escape. One of them is trying to blow the other one up and assumes that they did.
Yes. The third option being an issue ends with Magneto revealing himself.
Yeah, there's a couple of those.
They finally name the Savage Land here. If you remember way back when we visited, they just called it a mysterious land under Antarctica.
Oh, yeah.
This is officially now the Savage Land.
Also, Kazar's different.
Yeah, he's been through some shit.
He's a lot more... he's just as, like, brusque and aggressive, but instead of just being like, Kazar hate weird men, he's like making literary allusions and stuff. Like he's a fully like well-spoken guy. He still refers to himself in the third person.
Hank even mentions it, right? Hank mentions in one panel that Kazar is speaking more eloquently and he's kind of annoyed by it. Like Hank thinks that he should stick to his caveman speak. He does that to one of the villains too. He's like, "Boy, you talk a lot and you talk fancy." It's really
he's really having like an identity crisis.
he is. He's bandying about some physician heal thyself.
Yeah, I love okay, so Angel rushes in again just over and over and over and always loses. There's a moment though where he's thinking about how he got used to trick the X-Men, which is that's also a funny reveal too, because when Amphibious attacks them, he's like, "Thanks, Angel, for leading us to you did well for delaying our enemies so we could attack them," as if like that would work.
Yeah.
Like they'd be like, "You did, our best friend, you did," and then they'd start fighting Angel. Which, actually, now that I say it out loud, that probably would happen.
Yeah, he's already pretty deep into things here.
So
he's really committed.
There's a whole panel where he's just like monologuing in his head. It's all thoughts, right? And he's like, "Oh man, they're gonna turn me into a murderer. I can't believe they did this to me." And he's like, "You know what? I'm gonna make him pay for that." And then he yells out loud, "Or die trying." So
right,
from everything else is a
thought balloon.
Actually, I want to just paint this scene, right? Iceman, Jean, and Cyclops are off panel. They must just be standing there watching. They're just standing there doing absolutely nothing as Beast and Kazar are fighting an army of men. And Angel just jumps up into the air and yells, "Or die trying!" and flies off. Why are the other X-Men not fighting?
I know. Well, so Kazar, to be fair, Kazar is like, "I don't want you guys fighting beside me. This is my battle. Please leave me alone." And with good reason, every time he runs into the X-Men, they fuck things up for him.
Yeah.
But Hank is like, "Buddy, I can't do that to you," and just rushes right in. Everybody else is like, "Look, if Kazar doesn't want us to be part of this, we have to let him fucking..."
I really wish that Neal Adams had given us just one panel of all the other X-Men just standing there watching.
I know. It's definitely missing. It's so strange that it's just it's beautifully illustrated, of course, but so strange that it's just that and then the X-Men fighting a bunch of wolves.
The Lorelei reveal also pretty okay. The last time we see Warren, he's confronting Magneto, and then Magneto's like, "Look over there," and Angel looks, and it's this like bright, like purplish, pinkish light, and he says, "What are you pointing at, man? Something in that glowing sphere? Something that... No, it can't be! It's just Lorelei." We find out later it's just Lorelei.
It's okay. I was unclear on that because it is, again, beautifully illustrated, right? It's you see the fear in Warren's eyes. There's a close up on his eyes. There's light refracting everywhere, and then they cut.
Yeah,
and then when we rejoin Warren a little later, nothing's happening. They're just hanging out in the room, and Warren's going, "There's no use fighting this guy. He's gonna..." Unclear.
Well, they say that he's entranced because it's Lorelei's power.
Sure. Yeah. Now it makes sense to me.
But also, why would he look at her and say, "No, it can't be"? Like, that's not what her power is.
You don't know who that is.
Yeah. Why wouldn't he look at her and go, "Ooh," like, "Ooh, hot lady," and then start drooling or whatever?
Maybe he thought he had a one-on-one fight with Magneto, and as we know, he thought he would win that. And then it's revealed that there's another mutant in the room, and that's what panics him.
And he's so upset. He's like, "No, it can't be. I thought this was a private conversation."
Yeah.
Lorelei's powers, by the way.
Interesting.
What the fuck?
So she's a siren, right? Based on Greek mythology, which famously only affected men because men were the only subjects of those stories. Like they were the sailors, they were the adventurers. And I guess that's where I think they wrote themselves into a corner maybe where all of the X-Men are entranced by Magneto. How would they possibly get out of this?
Right.
Oh, well, one of them was unaffected because they are a girl.
I can see the logic here that it's like, oh, she entrances the mind of those who find her attractive. Oh, she makes people fall in love with her by sight. But like, I don't understand why that power would have limits based on somebody's sexuality.
Yeah, or just their gender. Like in the comic, it's explained that this is a gendered power, which is
straight. Yeah, so and it must not be about sexuality because Iceman's gay,
right?
Unless he's faking. He's like, me too. And again, is Marvel Girl that aggressively heterosexual? So it must be. You're right. It must be just something about having like being a cis man. It only affects the Y chromosome or some shit. And so if there was a woman who had an errant Y chromosome, I guess she would be
stuck. You think it's at the chromosome level?
I have what else would be the difference?
That would be pretty intense, but it's a mutant power. So that's like, I think there's, so gender science in the 60s wasn't super complex.
All right, you're right. Yeah.
I very badly want to find a canon reason for this to work, but it might just be gender essentialism.
I don't think that happens late. Like, I think when Lorelei is a comic book character in the future, I think she
comes back.
Oh yeah, all of these.
I just watched her lose her powers.
That is strange, isn't it?
There's a point. I thought this was fascinating. So Beast is fighting alongside Kazar. He compares him to Buster Crabbe. And I said, that can't be a real name. So I Googled it. There is a real Buster Crabbe, and he was actually quite a celebrity. In 1932, he was an Olympic gold medal swimmer for the U.S. And in the 30s, if you were moderately famous, they started putting you in the pictures. So he had more than 50 film appearances in the 10 years following his gold medal. Those roles include Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, Billy the Kid, and here's what confuses me, Tarzan. Now, Kazar, we may have misinformed about this in past episodes, but was actually created in the 30s as a Tarzan ripoff, right? Timely Comics didn't have access or didn't have the rights to Tarzan, but they wanted to make their own Tarzan. Buster Crabbe played Tarzan. Tarzan was the inspiration for Kazar. Hank is comparing Kazar to the man that played Tarzan.
This is like TV writer Dan Harmon calls this the Monopoly guy, where you imbue a character with a trait and then you make a joke about the trait that you gave that character. This is based on the Ace Ventura movie.
Oh, sure.
Where they dress a man as the Monopoly guy and have him walk down the steps at like some gala, and Ace Ventura is like, oh, look, it's the Monopoly guy. And it's like...
It's a pretty good moment.
But that's not a good joke! You dressed him up like the Monopoly guy! You were like, okay, in walks a guy named a guy dressed like the Monopoly guy, and our character says, hey, it's the Monopoly guy. That's not an observation. That's not a clever...
Right. The joke isn't supposed to be that he looks like the Monopoly guy. The joke is supposed to be that Ace Ventura notices that he looks like the Monopoly guy, but you clearly wrote it for the Monopoly guy to show up.
Exactly. Absolutely ridiculous. And that's what's happening here.
I think the only person that can get away with that is Adam Sandler. I think he does that really to an absurd degree.
In what? Like, give me an example.
Like the Table of Freaks in The Wedding Singer.
Okay.
Which includes Brian Posehn. Everybody loves that guy, right?
Okay.
Like he just grabbed freaky looking people and called them essentially the unfuckable table.
Okay, so this is also reminding me of something that we missed last issue, and I sent you a message about this. I was on the Neal Adams Wikipedia page, and
Ooh.
we mentioned how boring that Ben Casey thing is.
Right.
Last
Don't even want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it at all. But it was a reference to a comic strip that Neal Adams drew based on the television show.
Right.
Apparently, he drew a Ben Casey comic book strip, and then Roy Thomas was like just threw it in there as a little.
That is such an old-timey comics thing of like, oh yeah, we found this guy doing a daily newspaper comic strip based on a popular but boring television show.
Okay, I want to move on to the next issue, but I have one more thing.
Yeah, what's your one more thing? I also have one more thing.
Okay, my one more thing is, why did Magneto resurrect Angel? How did that possibly factor into his plans? Wouldn't he have been way better off just letting Angel be dead? Be like, okay, one X-Men down. All right, I only got a couple more to fight.
Yeah, I think he wants his scheme to be a little more Machiavellian, where he's not just defeating his enemies, he is humiliating them. He's picking them apart from the inside.
And I think this also plays into our larger theory that Magneto does not want to kill the X-Men.
Yeah, that's true. He said he saw a spark of life remaining and used state-of-the-art technology that he needs to advance his plans to instead save Angel.
And he's like, oh, I this is for my plan, actually.
There's a really good Scott moment in this issue where I think it's the third Magneto reveal when he reveals himself to the remaining X-Men. Scott deduces it a moment before. He's like, it seems like somebody's creating mutants here. This is a dastardly plan. The only person I could think of that would bring this all together is somebody that we're sure is dead. And then Magneto steps out of the door. But it's just like, oh, Scott figured it out. He solved the mystery.
Which is funny because Magneto's not going to be the only character in Marvel Comics to try to make their own mutants. So there's not only one person who could pull off it. But anyway, Pat, I'm going to tell you about issue 64. The Coming of Sunfire! Not like that, you fucking pervert.
You, the listener, is the pervert, not me.
Stanley editing, Roy Thomas writing, Don Heck drawing, Tom Palmer inking, Artie Simek lettering, released on November 19th, 1969. It is November of 69, a brand new mutant.
Please stop that.
We've never, I will in 2 more issues. A brand new mutant we've never seen before. A guy in a gaudy costume based loosely on the concept of flames and the old Japanese flag, named Sunfire, stands above New York, angry that he's better than everyone else. He registers on the X-Men's mini Cerebro as he stalks around outside the United Nations building, waiting for some ceremony to begin. A politician from Japan named Mr. Yoshida has flown to the U.S. to dedicate a monument to the youth of the world. And as he wraps up his speech and asks for a glass of water, Sunfire blasts the monument with heat rays that emanate from his hands and declares Yoshida is a traitor. Iceman, Beast, and Angel intercept him and drive him off, but Hank gets his face burned in the process. The X-Men retreat to their uptown headquarters, while Sunfire retreats to hang out with his Uncle Tomo and tell him his entire origin story. You know, like you do with your uncle all the time.
Don't you? His uncle knows it. He's like, don't you remember, Uncle, how this all started?
And it's like, yes.
Let me go back to when I was born.
Oh, God, you do this every time. Every time I see you. Sunfire's mother was several miles outside of Hiroshima when the U.S. dropped a nuclear bomb on it, rendering her a, quote, invalid. Several years later, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son, Shiro Yoshida, before dying. Shiro was then raised by his uncle, who took him to Ground Zero, activating Shiro's powers as he touched the soil. He found he could project super hot streams of fire from his fingertips.
Sorry, Matt, they discover his powers by his uncle taking him to ground zero
Yeah.
of where a nuclear bomb was dropped.
Yeah. And he's like, pick up the dirt, boy.
Digging his hands into the soil because he had a theory that this child was a mutant and this would bring out his mutant powers. If this child wasn't a mutant, this is like...
He's just killed his nephew.
Stage 4 cancer, yeah.
Hey, anything for whatever his weird goals are. After a few years of training with Uncle Tomo, he now swears to use his powers as Sunfire to avenge his nation in front of the world by humbling the United States. The X-Men head back to the UN in their weird Fantasticar ripoff, searching for Sunfire. When they pick... Yeah.
I'm sorry, this isn't their Fantasticar ripoff. This is the Manta Ray jet that they stole in issue 59.
But it doesn't look like it anymore. It will look like it a little bit later, but in this scene it doesn't.
Oh, all right. Sorry,
maybe it
does. I'm mixing up my moments.
No, it does.
It's just each artist keeps drawing it slightly differently because it is the goofiest looking jet you've ever seen.
It looks like shit, yeah. Okay, so yeah, in their weird floppy car, they head off searching for Sunfire. When they pick him up on Cerebro, they have Angel follow him to the airport where he sees Mr. Yoshida, the politician, in the company of his brother Tomo and his son Shiro. Sunfire is Mr. Yoshida's son!
Ooh, shit.
When Angel loses them in the crowd, he picks a random airplane as it takes off and flies up to see if he can see the Yoshidas on board, but instead gets sucked into the jet engine and dies. Okay, well, he would have died if Iceman and Jean didn't save him at the last second. Turns out none of that was needed because Angel, I guess, already knew from the news that the Yoshidas were headed to Washington, D.C. to speak in front of Congress, so they just go there.
He's just showing off.
And failing! He loses a fight with a jet. He loses a fight with a plane that's not fighting back.
He just gets sucked into the engine, which is how you know that he's never tried this before. You don't get that close to a jet engine when it's in flight. I've never done it before, and I know that.
Legitimately, he's the worst X-Man.
He's so bad at this. He just keeps surviving.
Yeah, I know. Well, speaking of that, dude, this is the first time Angel has met another mutant who can fly. And immediately it's like, oh, this guy flies better than me and faster.
Shit. I hope the gang doesn't see this.
Okay, so Mr. Yoshida catches Shiro and Tomo planning and slaps his son, then later catches him in full Sunfire garb. Sunfire knocks his dad out and flies up in the air, planning to incinerate the Capitol building, but is interrupted by Angel at the last second. Angel gets knocked out immediately.
Of course.
Sunfire and Iceman face each other down. Fire versus ice, and Iceman gets knocked out too. Marvel Girl, using her telekinesis, flies Cyclops up to the top of the Capitol building, where he deflects Sunfire's fire and leaps off the building to tussle with Shiro in mid-air after Scott gets blasted in the face. That's 2 X-Men unconscious, 2 blasted in the face at this point. Marvel Girl lowers Scott to the ground, leaving no one in between Sunfire and his goals, except Mr. Yoshida. He tells his son that in order to destroy the building, he'll have to kill him. And that Tomo is a sick man trying to fan the flames of a dead war. While Sunfire wrestles with the choice, Tomo shoots Mr. Yoshida graveyard dead. Sunfire responds by blasting Uncle Tomo and rushing to his dying father's side. The X-Men awkwardly leave. Literally just like fucking Homer Simpson in the bushes. Okay, we should. The X-Men awkwardly leave as Sunfire cries over his father's dead body. The end.
I love this consistent theme with the X-Men where they're things actually turned out pretty bad for this guy. Let's leave him alone.
They did it to Sauron's girlfriend.
Right.
And then
They did
Angel
it-
stumbled upon her a little later, and she's just alone on a cliff.
Or who was that weird rich guy that put on a metal costume and started shooting
Meccano.
up the town? Yeah.
And they were like,
Meccano.
"Oh, this is weird
Like,
with your dad." And all.
you just had a touching moment with your dad. You're probably healed.
Or that they leave Tyrannus and Mole Man completely
Memoryless in the park.
memoryless in the.
You guys will be fine.
Don Heck, your boy.
Stop calling him my boy, please. This feels to me like your mom saying, "We're not stopping for legendary X-Men artists. We have legendary X-Men artists at home."
And then Don Heck, you're like, "Aw." I love. You wrote this note, but so I'm just going to say it. I also love the opening line. Is just ants.
Ants.
Here's what I wonder, because he's way up on a building. Does Sunfire just not have a concept of distance? And he sees all the people walking around, and he's just like, they're all so small. I could squint. He does the Saturday Night Live head squishing thing.
Ooh, Matt, that's Kids in the Hall.
Oh my god, that is Kids in the Hall.
That's embarrassing.
That's really embarrassing. Cut this!
We are dancing around it a little bit. What's the message of this?
The message of the issue is, hey, the U.S. didn't do anything bad.
Beginning of the issue, before we even establish that this
God.
has to do with the war, the end of World War II, it's established that this is a very famous Japanese statesman. And so a man in the crowd, unnamed, waiting for this statesman to speak, says, he makes me feel like maybe the big one was worth it after all.
God damn it.
Is he referring to what I think he's referring to?
He must be. Here's what I think is happening. I think this is Roy Thomas saying, after we defeated Japan in World War II, they became good. And and now they have these excellent statesmen that we can invite to the U.S. and have speak and admire. And so it's in some way Roy Thomas thinking he's trying to repair some fucking gulf between U.S. and Japan relations by being like, hey kids, we all love Japan now. We have to put you might run into Japanese people who are mad at us. They're crazy. And you might think that we did something bad, but actually what we did made it so that Japan is our friends and and we love each other now.
Yeah, that's fair. You have to imagine by the 60s, that's what like the textbooks were listing about it, right? And
right. Saying like, if we hadn't done it, Japan would still be bad guys and we wouldn't be friends with them.
Right.
This was at a time where, in like the social sciences, social evolutionism had fallen out of favor, but in modern culture, it hadn't. So a layman's understanding of it would be, we helped push Japan into the next century.
Right.
We helped them evolve their civilization into its next stage, and now they're catching up with us. Where again, civilization is not a evolution; it is
a
series of choices.
Aside, the other piece I'm mad about, and I knew I said I was going to let this go, but Iceman says, "Holy jumpin' Hannah!"
Just when you had let it go, they were like, let's make it worse for him.
Yeah, let's ramp this up.
Holy jumpin' Hannah.
Here's the thing is...
Yeah.
I'm still picturing Hannah Horvath from Girls when somebody says, holy Hannah. So when you say jumpin' Hannah, now I'm watching Lena Dunham jump up and down in my head. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. It is bizarre. That is bizarre that you picture that, but it is also a weird phrase, and I've never heard it besides in these comics.
We get the reveal that the X-Men actually have a nice uptown city HQ in this issue.
Yeah, when I read your note on that, I got confused. I was like, oh, I think maybe this is where they've been the last few issues when we've been calling it the mansion, but then we find out next issue that no, they have been in the mansion.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I can't tell. Was this Scott's secret identity apartment?
Maybe that's my best guess, because it's just an apartment. It's a they say HQ, but there's just like a kitchen and a living room.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure this is our first time seeing it as their HQ. I don't think they've been here before. I think this is just to explain why they're not leaving the city.
Yeah. We should talk about Sunfire, because Sunfire's here.
Yeah. Sunfire comes back, I presume.
Yes. Sunfire becomes a major figure in X-Men lore. He becomes an X-Man really soon.
Ooh.
I think he becomes a Horseman of Apocalypse at one point. He's part of Big Hero 6, if you've seen the Disney movie.
He's how does that work?
He wasn't in the movie, but he was a member of Big Hero 6 in the comics. He was an Avenger.
Oh. He was an Avenger?
Yeah, the Avengers Unity Squad, when it was when Rogue and Havok led a team of Avengers.
Oh, is it all mutants?
It is like half mutants, half Avengers. It was
all right.
I think Captain America, Thor, Scarlet Witch, Havok, Wolverine, Rogue, Sunfire. I'm missing somebody. It was in Uncanny Avengers was the comic.
Okay. I was going to say, this sounds like it could either be a weird Avengers team or a weird X-Men team.
Yeah, no, it was in the wake of the X-Men versus Avengers crossover, I think. It was like to bring X-Men and mutants together. It's well known for Havok having a really, really terrible speech where he opens up by quoting the NoFX song, Don't Call Me White, by saying, don't call me mutant, represents everything I hate.
Oh, no.
And then goes on to say, don't call me a mutant, I'm just a human like you. And it's like a really tone-deaf, post-racialist speech by Rick Remender. It's like clearly not by Havok.
That checks out.
Havok has always, I guess, been a little weird about his status as a mutant. Like, if anybody was going to give that speech, I could see it being Havok, but it feels like it comes out of Rick Remender's pen rather than Havok's mouth.
Yeah, sure.
I will say this. Uncanny Avengers is great. Uncanny X-Force, also by Rick Remender, is great. I think he's done some amazing X-Men comics, but man, that speech is one of the worst. Up there with Kitty Pryde yelling the N-word several times. Okay, not quite that
bad. One thing I need to talk about in this issue, and I meant to talk about it last issue, I meant to talk about it last episode. Magneto saves Angel, who is flying around in his Avenging Angel costume, right? He kind of was mad at the X-Men. He was like, I don't need this nice costume that Jean made for me by hand. Instead, I'm going to wear this Avenging Angel costume from my past. So he's wearing his Avenging Angel costume. He dies in the Savage Land. Magneto brings him back to life. And when he emerges from the chamber, he's got a whole different costume on. It's the Avenging Angel costume, but with just like navy blue, black, and white. And no one mentions it. It's not the black and red Avenging Angel costume from his origins. It is this brand new costume. The X-Men do mention in issue 63, when he approaches them in Kazar, they're like, oh, how do we know this really is Warren? He's wearing a whole different costume. But that is the only mention of it. And now this is just the costume that he wears.
Yeah.
Why isn't anybody talking about it?
I do have some more stuff to say about Sunfire, actually, real quick.
Okay.
Because this is going to become really important in 3 episodes. 3 episodes of this podcast from now. So this Sunfire was the beginning of this idea that Roy Thomas had when talking with, I think, Al. I'm going to get some of this wrong. So Al Landau was the president of Marvel.
Yeah, he was the publisher.
Okay, yeah. So Al Landau was the publisher at Marvel, and Al Landau also ran a media company called Transworld that was in charge of selling Marvel comics like in foreign markets.
Yeah.
And in conversation with him, Roy Thomas decided that Marvel needed more international superheroes. So the places that Marvel comics sold really well, I don't know that Japan was one of them because this idea never came to fruition, but I know this is why Wolverine was invented.
Oh.
As a Canadian, and this is why Banshee was brought back. So in some of these markets where Marvel comics were popular, he was like, they should each have their own superhero, and he was going to do it in the X-Men. His original idea, and I'm going to talk about it now. We'll touch on it a little bit later when the idea turns into something else. But his original idea was that the X-Men would travel the world looking for mutants in a ship that disguises itself as a cloud.
Okay.
Real Roy Thomas-ass idea.
Yeah.
And recruit mutants from various countries.
I think you just said this, but this does sort of happen in the future, right?
Yeah. So, instead of using these specific countries I think this is what we'll talk about in the future. Instead of using this dumb Roy Thomas cloud idea, and instead of using this
Cloudomatron,
the Cloudocopter,
the Cloudo propulsion it.
Instead of the Muto recruitment device, instead of using the exact nations that were like their biggest markets, when there comes to be international X-Men, it'll just be
everywhere.
It'll be everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think countries chosen for their specific different political affiliations so that it can make it feel like there's tension on the team. But that's, I think, where at least the kernel of the idea of Sunfire comes from. Now,
that's interesting.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you about issue 65?
No, I want to tell you about issue 65.
Fine. Go fucking ahead.
Thank you, Matt. Issue 65, Before I'd Be Slave. Dennis O'Neil, writer, Neal Adams, artist, aided by Tom Palmer, inker, Gene Izzo, letterer. They do let us know that Roy Thomas is taking a brief break, but we'll be back next issue.
Okay, I have to give you some more background issue.
Yeah. Denny O'Neil, Matt? He goes by Dennis O'Neil here.
So Denny O'Neil and Neal Adams would eventually be like a legendary comic book team.
Okay.
They will do in the 70s a Green Arrow, Green Lantern run that focuses really, really heavily on social issues. They will do a run on Batman that is very
I know Batman.
that is very formative for the character's the sort of Dark Knight aspect of the character comes from their run. Well known for the very big ears, Batman.
Yeah.
But in this instance, Neal Adams actually plotted this issue, supposedly. And then Roy Thomas, thinking, they've got this one, was busy that month, so he passed off writing duties to Denny O'Neil. And this pissed Neal Adams off. So along with a couple other things in this issue, is why Neal Adams left the X-Men.
Ooh.
And we'll talk about those other things as we get to them.
Okay. We'll try to top that. Enjoy this recap then. Release date December 16th, 1969. That's when it hit shelves. But the
Was
cover
December
date
of 69.
The cover date is actually February 1970. The X-Men arrive back at the mansion in their street clothes, hoping to recover from the intense battle with Sunfire. But it's not to be, as they are greeted at the front door by Alex Summers and Lorna Doone in their full Havok and Polaris costumes, demanding the X-Men suit up and get ready for action.
If this is your first episode, it's Lorna Dane. Pat's being a goof.
Sorry. The X-Men and Havok and Polaris spend 2 full pages shouting "there's no time for that now" back and forth until the X-Men finally relent. Once they're in costume, Alex feels comfortable explaining that there's an impending alien invasion at the South Pole. We're going back to the South Pole. And that these aliens are transporting their entire planet into Earth's orbit with the intention of throwing off our gravity, causing all sorts of tidal waves and earthquakes, making us Earthlings very easy to enslave.
Even still, after, like you said, 2 pages of there's no time for that now, and like a physical altercation because there's no time for that now, he's still not telling them everything. Nobody's telling anybody. There's so many very important details.
I also love off-panel, there must have been a conversation of like, okay, Alex, we'll listen to you. And Alex was like, no, you have to get in costume first.
Yeah, they are yelling at, there's so much dialogue. And they're still not telling each other anything.
The X-Men are just begging for a nap. They're like, I don't care what the emergency is. I need to rest. The X-Men are all very skeptical about the idea of an alien invasion until Alex reveals who gave him the intel. And just as he names him, who comes rolling around the corner but Professor
Magneto.
X?
Oh.
Right. It's a Professor X reveal.
Whoa.
He's alive, to everyone's surprise but Jean's. She's known all along and had been sworn to secrecy about it. Professor X explains what happened. As he was discovering this alien invasion, Changeling, you remember Changeling? Snuck into his super secret office to ask for a purpose. He found out, Changeling did, that he only has months left to live and wants to make up for some of the damage he caused. Xavier, immediately seeing an opportunity, tells Changeling to pose as him and lead the X-Men until he dies, so Xavier can take the time he needs to focus on this alien invasion.
Now, okay, we talked about this at the time. So, Changeling, we only ever saw him use his powers once. Off panel, he changed into Professor X because on panel he was like, I'm Professor X, and then Professor X was like, that's not me, that's Changeling.
Right. And it confused the X-Men, which confused the villain.
Right. And then now he changes into Professor X. Changeling can only... Is it possible Changeling's only power is I could change into Professor X?
His mutant power is just become Charles Xavier.
One other guy. Maybe he had to pick that guy at the beginning. Like, when his mutant power manifested, he had to pick a guy, and Charles Xavier is just like on TV. And it's like, fuck, this is all I can do now.
It's better if for years he was just changing into some guy, and then at the height of his power, when he's working for Mutant Master, he's like, oh shit, this is the guy. This is the guy I keep changing into.
Yeah. So remember how many times we pointed out Professor X using telepathy after that issue?
Right. Yeah. It turns out that was Changeling's telepathy.
Who doesn't have telepathy?
Well, we also learned that Professor Xavier was able to give a chunk of his telepathy to Jean, so it's possible that he was also able to give a chunk of his telepathy to Changeling. Utterly. The X-Men are as shocked as we are.
Yeah.
But, of course, there's no time for that now. They must train harder than they have ever trained to prepare their counterattack. Cue a pretty sick Danger Room splash panel.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the South Pole, Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. are mounting an attack on the alien scouting ship that was sent to the South Pole. It's quickly made clear that they're no match for the alien forces, so it's time for the X-Men to act. They take a rocket ship back to Antarctica.
Where's the Avengers? Where's Thor? Where's anybody who... Okay, go ahead.
They're off-world, I'm sure.
The Fantastic Four aren't, because we see them later.
That's true. They're just sitting around in the Baxter building. The X-Men arrive in the alien base where they fight a Godzilla with the face of Humphrey Bogart before finding the control center.
This is the other thing that made Neal Adams quit. Neal Adams drew like a reptilian alien here.
Yeah,
like
a monster, something. It doesn't look like any of the other aliens.
Yes, he drew a monster with a monster face. Stan Lee didn't like it and had, I think, Don Heck erase it and draw over it.
No.
Yeah, and draw a humanoid face. That's who ends up on the cover of this issue too. Is this horrible, stupid-looking monster? Another reason why Neal Adams quit was like, fuck this. I'm not working here anymore.
It's so bizarre. It does look like they took Godzilla and replaced his face with a cranky old man.
It sucks. We've seen some bad art in the X-Men. This monster's face is, I think, the worst.
The X-Men in the control center actually have a really easy time with the aliens, but there's just too many of them. The alien planet is too close. They'll never be able to stop them in time. Until the professor employs superhuman will to scan the minds of everyone on Earth and unite all the minds that possess the trait of compassion, except for pilots and surgeons that are currently at work, of course. He then... They made it very clear. He's not...
Don't worry. If your
mom's not distracting
in surgery,
any pilots.
If your mom's in surgery, Professor Charles Xavier is not going to.
I love it. It is for sure an editor's note. This is Stan going, nope, can't get the surgeons. He scans the minds of everyone on Earth and unites all of the minds that possess the trait of compassion. This does include the Fantastic Four, who were just sitting on the couch. He then...
It's their day off.
Follow me here. He then blasts that positive energy out into the universe, has Lorna, who's standing by his side, direct it to the X-Men's location with her magnetic powers. It hits Jean in the brain, where she... projects it into Havok. Yeah. Havok uses it as a charge for his blasting powers, which he blasts directly into Scott's back. Scott absorbs that to intensify his eye beams, which he shoots straight up into the air at the alien planet, while Bobby shoots ice at him to keep him from overheating, because this is a lot of activity. But these aren't his regular eye beams. They are filled with the positive energy of compassionate people, and they score a direct hit. The aliens begin to be overwhelmed with feelings of love and compassion, which drives them mad enough to fly away from the Earth and then blow up their entire planet, finding death is the only escape from these foreign feelings. The end. That's it.
We friggin' hate being evil now. Oh, man, we was evil? I hate it.
Let's die.
Let's... Oh, God. Remember just like 3 issues ago, the X-Men was really good?
Yeah, I know. If I can pull some gold out of this, though, this is still Neal Adams, right? There's some weird things going on art-wise here, but there's a moment where Havok is warming up his powers, and it is just so damn cool. It is these concentric circles that are like brightest in the middle of his chest, and they're expanding out and kind of changing color and dimming a bit, and then it's also radiating out from like the different joints on his arm that he's preparing to... It's an incredibly cool visual. It's pretty iconic. I think it becomes sort of Havok's thing. moving forward. Like, this is how his powers get displayed.
Neal Adams really sets a lot up about Havok's costume. Like, his costume is just a black void, and that those concentric circles on his chest that grow and shrink depending on the level of energy in his body.
Yeah.
It moves around. Like, there's a scene where he's off to the, like, usually it's in the center of his chest, but if Havok is turned to the side, it's still in the center.
Yeah, it looks like it's almost like a necklace that he's wearing with a big hubcap on it.
You get the sense that no matter what direction you're looking at Havok from, you will see these circles in the center of that form. Which is a very cool idea, as if there's just some optical mechanism working here that is inhuman, like doesn't exist in physics, but exists in Havok, which is really interesting. The other really great Neal Adams thing here is when Professor X is linking together all the people's compassion. It's like a little boy. It's like what is clearly meant to be a woman in some African country.
Mm-hmm.
Then what is clearly meant to be a man in some Middle Eastern country, and he's got a bandolier of bullets on.
He's
a little weird, but
there's some choices here.
And then what, again, I think is clearly supposed to be a Native American, and they are all just like raising fists in front of them, full of determination, and it's really cool. It's it's kind of an affecting moment.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I know you're talking about art, but I'm also a sucker for the power of love. I think a story that uses that as its sort of Deus Ex Machina I'll forgive that every time. I think it's very sweet. Back to Neal Adams, though, the one other thing I wanted to point out was the shield airship that he draws, which looks like a fucking metal blimp. It's heavily riveted and armored. It's got sort of like the observation areas in the front. It's not the cockpit. The cockpit sits underneath, but the big windows in the front make it look like this big sort of menacing metal worm. It's got propellers on it. It's really very imaginative, and
it looks impossibly large too.
Yeah. It's again, Neal Adams and that sense of scale that he's able to put in is really just, it's doing its work here.
Also, I like some of the littler things here. I feel a little conflicted about how he draws the X-Men out of costume in this issue. Like, the first few pages of this are a little awkward. And they kind of don't look like the same people panel to panel. I don't know what's going on there, because Neal Adams is usually very consistent with how he draws people. But he does things in like little touches, like he draws Cyclops and Jean holding hands as they're like having conversations with people. And something about just like those little touches are just so, I don't know. I like it. I like it. That sort of personal touch. There's sort of like a thoughtfulness that's going into how he draws.
I think thoughtful is a really good word for it. There's a lot of attention to detail. There's a lot of effort put into displays of emotion, whether it's on someone's face or it's just in their body language.
I'll tell you another thing that I think this whole alien invasion is such like a contrived. I think that this whole concept sucks. I think it's so contrived. I think it's so silly. They're just like, we're evil. We want to enslave people. Oh no, we're evil. We gotta. But like, also, what is Xenox? Like this was also something.
Xenox.
This is also something that made Neal Adams quit, and this is why he was mad at Denny O'Neil's dialogue. He was like, I drew these cool aliens, and he named them Xenox.
Z''NOX.
Yes. Yeah. And so like in interviews, Neal Adams is like, yeah, I don't know why he named them that. That's stupid.
It's very like that is a 1950s science fiction name, and we're in the 70s now, baby.
All right. So which of these insane things do we want to talk about before we move on to the next issue? Do we want to talk about Xavier? We've talked about all of them. but I'm sure we have
Well,
more to say. Do we want to talk about the no time for that nowing at the beginning, where they're just shouting at each other instead of telling each other what's fucking going on? Do we want to talk about Xavier faking his own death, which makes absolutely no sense and is just
Wait.
absolutely psychotic? Go ahead.
I need to talk about Xavier faking his death because I have given this man credit in the past, and I need to take that back. This is fucked up. Here is a list of things that you did. Faked your death seemingly just so you could get some work done because the X-Men were distracting you too much. The children that you adopted and brought into your home, took advantage of a dying man. Changeling walks in and says, I only have months to live. I want to serve some sort of purpose. This is a shapeshifter. There are 1,000 things you could do with him just to change the world. But instead you say, why don't you pretend to be me and then go die?
And go fight Grotesque and die.
Yeah. Made Jean keep it a secret. I don't blame Jean for this at all. She is an innocent child. This is her mentor who's like, hey, I'm going to fake my death. And the only other people I let you have any contact with, you need to make sure they don't find out about it.
And he's groomed them in this way.
Yeah,
you listen to what I say. You trust everything I say. You do everything I say. Otherwise, the world could be destroyed. Is this thing that he's constantly instilling in them. He always does this stuff where he's like, the fate of the world hangs in the balance. And then it's like, Gene, you got to go to college.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, the fate of the world didn't hang in the balance, you fucking emotionally manipulative dick.
Jean's got the power of positivity. Why can't she handle this?
Why couldn't he call Reed Richards and say, hey, I noticed there's an alien invasion coming. Can we work on this together?
Yeah, you guys handle this sort of thing a lot.
Yeah, you probably know how to. You've defeated the most menacing creature in the entire universe several times. I'm talking about Galactus. You could probably help.
Here's what I think might be the worst part, or at least the most impactful part. He let Changeling lead and train the team without their knowledge. He has no qualifications there. He's the one who's creating these directives for him. You are trusting Changeling entirely to not revert back to his old ways, to have completely reformed himself and be willing to not just lead a team of superheroes, but lead a team of young adults that are in an important developmental stage.
Hey, thankfully he died right the fuck away.
He is,
like, wasn't the Grotesque thing like 2 issues after?
It was shortly after that. Xavier didn't know that was going to happen.
No, he didn't. He didn't at all. And
he thought he was going to die of cancer.
The fucking Xavier let the X-Men get broken up and sent across the entire country without intervening, without being like, oh, sorry, Fred. I don't know why you're calling yourself Amos now, but you don't have to break up the X-Men. I'm still here. It's okay.
Yeah.
They had to take on brand new identities. Scott had to go get his broadcasting license. Jean had to learn to be a supermodel and get like sexually harassed by that dick.
Yeah, her psyche is changed. She's a different person after that cover mission.
And she knew!
One more thing he does that's fucked up here that I didn't mention in the recap is he goes ahead and dies again. The end of the issue, he had too much compassion in his head and he passes out from it. He collapses. And once again, the X-Men are all fearing that their leader, mentor, father figure is dead.
You mentioned here, though, when Alex is telling everybody about the invasion, that Iceman calls him Tin Hitler.
Yes.
I also want to mention Alex at some points calls Iceman Sonny. Remember, Alex is like
3 years older.
He's a senior in college, and Bobby is, I guess you're right. I guess Alex is older than Bobby.
It's not a sunny age gap. That's
no,
for sure.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Because was that what we saw, that Alex was graduating college?
Yeah, Alex is Scott's older brother, and we know Scott is about 2 years older than
Alex
Bobby.
is Scott's younger brother.
I'm sorry, Matt, but if we go back to the issue where we met Alex Summers, it is made clear that he is Scott's
Younger brother.
Older brother.
Younger brother.
Somebody look it up. Email us, mutantmenacepod@gmail.com.
I mean, we're going to look it up.
We're not going back to these old issues.
We're going to look it up right now. Page 2 of issue 54. Imagine Scott having a kid brother.
Well, you still got the SNL thing wrong.
Page 3. Thanks, big brother.
Okay. Is that Scott talking to Alex?
No, it's Alex talking to Scott. I was like, oh, fuck, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. There's no time for this now. Here's a thing that I think is a little interesting, and I think you noted it here as well, Matt, that Havok and Polaris are not quite members of the X-Men. Like, they're second-class X-Men. The rest of the X-Men look down on them and say, like, hey, you're guests in our home. But at the same time, they wander around the mansion in costume, ready to fight whatever they're called upon.
Right. And when the X-Men go to fight the Xenox, I guess Havok is there at the end. But he's not in any of the fight scenes. He doesn't, like, fight the aliens.
Yeah. And I think, like, once we get past this episode, we're not going to see an X-Men title for a little while. And the next time we do, the team is radically different. So...
But at that point, Havok and Polaris are considered, they have been part of the team for a while.
Yeah, I think...
Even though in the Dark Ages, I don't think we see them in... We'll see. We'll like revisit this, but...
Just want to visit that. It's made very clear in this issue that they're sort of like not primary. They're like X-Men reserves.
It's weird. It's weird whatever relationship they have to the X-Men. Okay. Anyway, well, we'll see what relationship they have to the X-Men in issue 66, The Mutant and the Monster.
Ooh.
No, it's not a yelling. There's no punctuation.
Wait, yeah, Matt, is this the first title of an X-Men issue that doesn't have punctuation at the end?
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it is. Usually it's an exclamation point. Sometimes it's an ellipses.
We're into the 1970s now, Pat. We're out of the 60s.
Yeah, we are
Our little podcast has made it to its next decade.
A new decade. We haven't quite hit 10 years of X-Men comics yet, but we are at least
I think we're 4.
Moving into the next.
Edited by Stan Lee. Written by Roy Thomas. Drawn by Sal Buscema.
Okay.
Inked by Sam Granger. Lettered by Artie Simek. It's the final issue of the X-Men, and the gang hovers over Xavier's bed as he lays in critical condition following his battle with the Xenox. Iceman gets mad and tries to impale Havok with an icicle because he and Lorna are they've clearly gotten closer.
Yeah, there's some romantic tension there.
Mm-hmm. And like a mutual romantic tension, which Lorna does not have with Bobby.
Which Bobby does not seem to grasp.
Scott breaks up their fight by blasting the ground with a full power optic blast that somehow does absolutely no damage to anything, and everyone apologizes to each other. Using a mind-probing device they got from the Avengers, they dig into Xavier's mind only to find that all he's worried about is the Hulk. That's all he's thinking about as he's dying. Suddenly, everyone remembers that Jean is a telepath now. She probes Xavier's mind, only to find a picture of the Hulk, and that's it. This guy loves the Hulk. That's all he's thinking about on his deathbed. He just wants to think about the Hulk. So the X-Men decide to go and find the Hulk, but leave Alex and Lorna behind, of course. Iceman, jealous as hell, demands that he's also, I'm staying behind too. The X-Men take off in their floppy airplane that looks like a robin covered in several layers of goo and soon find the Hulk rampaging in Las Vegas. Angel instantly dive bombs him and gets clapped into unconsciousness.
Of course.
Beast likewise leaps into battle and gets swatted away, so Cyclops gives him a full optic blast that, while it couldn't destroy a floor a few pages ago, slows the Hulk down long enough for Marvel Girl to knock him out with her mental bolts. He instantly reverts to Bruce Banner, and before he's even fully conscious, the X-Men begin bombarding him with questions about Professor X. A military guy who is not Thunderbolt Ross, but some kind of major. I looked it up. Apparently Major Glenn Talbot.
Oh, Major Glenn Talbot.
I don't know this character, but he's apparently
No, neither do I.
best friends with Thunderbolt Ross, which makes it even funnier that he just constantly uses thunder as an explanation. He's like, thunder, these people are... That's like me stubbing my toe and being like, oh, Reber!
What a Rebe. I'll say this, Matt.
Yeah.
At least he's not saying Holy Hannah.
No. But now apparently everyone's saying halcyon, which I guess is a word that Roy Thomas just learned. And they've used the word halcyon 3 times an issue for the past 4 issues.
Yeah. We are going back before this episode.
Yeah. Okay, anyway. Glenn Talbot shows up with a few tanks and tells the X-Men he's taking Banner into custody. Cyclops, for once, actually explains himself, rather than saying no time for that now, and says they need help from Banner to cure Professor Charles Xavier. This jogs Banner's memory, who had worked with Xavier on a gamma treatment for mental exhaustion.
Oh boy.
Together, they built a device that's still in one of Banner's secret labs. Talbot doesn't care and moves to take Banner, which makes him mad, and we don't like him when he's mad. That means he turns into the Hulk. Hulk rampages through the military and leaps off into the distance, pursued by the X-Men in their floppy hat ship. They knock the Hulk off a cliff, and the impact exposes a lab behind the rock. Apparently, Banner led Hulk to the secret lab with the gamma exhaustion thingy. The X-Men distract the Hulk, and Angel makes himself useful for once and grabs the device. They take it back to the mansion and use it on Xavier, who wakes up, and they all pose around Xavier for the final panel, and the X-Men is canceled. The actual end.
Yeah. Moment of silence. They seem to realize in the last 2 panels that this will be the last ever issue of the X-Men. they end it with and they lived happily ever after ? And yet they are very clearly posing to be like, take it in.
Yeah. This is... Yeah, so I mean, we should talk for just a second about how, I mean, the X-Men continue to be published, but not written or drawn for
it's just reprints, right, for the next 4 or 5 years.
27 issues. The next 27 issues and 2 annuals are all reprints. And the story of the X-Men sort of continues on in other comics. They in the subsequent 5 years, they are just backup characters. So also, I mean, that's worth noting. Those 27 issues, those reprints, that's 5 years. So that's what, roughly 5 issues a year.
Yeah, every 2 months or so.
Yeah. So so it's just a strange thing that happened. I guess, people talk about this Roy Thomas and Neal Adams run and how important it was and how popular it was, at least at first. And it just was too little too late. And then, as we see, Roy Thomas leaves. The book must have already been scheduled to be canceled by then, because that's how businesses work. But
yeah.
The last few issues have just been bad. Like we had the best we've seen so far. And then these issues are like, what, an A-, a B-, a C-, then a D-.
Yeah, I love a good crossover. Like, I think the dynamic between the Hulk and the X-Men here is interesting, and I like that they're exploring that. And that's typically when you have a Hulk guest starring in someone else's comic. That's what you're going to get. It's going to be, how does this person interact with the Hulk and try to break through the emotion-driven personality, and then how do they interact with Banner, who is a little more arrogant, a little more difficult to get along with in certain ways. So they do a really good job of that. I think this is an early version of this, and ultimately they're like, hey, the Hulk just wants to be left alone. Let's let him be. So
it's interesting.
I do like that.
I guess they were trying to get like a tiny boost in sales by bringing the Hulk in. Is that what, like, they're like,
Yeah.
we're canceling it anyway, but.
So at the time, I mean, I would think that this is maybe like a last ditch effort, because the Hulk is Marvel's 4th best-selling title in 1969. It's behind Spider-Man, of course, Fantastic Four, and Thor was actually doing pretty well at this time. And then the Hulk comes in. X-Men is second from the bottom of Marvel's titles at this point. It is only beating out the Rawhide Kid and then maybe some like smaller short run titles that they were putting out at the time. But
that's wild, because they keep publishing Rawhide Kid until 1979.
Yes, they do. Do not understand that one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
But yeah, it seems like they brought the Hulk in to say, like, and this was probably planned before they realized they were canceled and then executed after. But they were like, let's put the Hulk in here because he is selling like hotcakes right now. They said that a lot in the 60s. And the X-Men just weren't. And you know that, like, it's very clear, even just from his editor's notes, Stan Lee loved the X-Men. He considered him a creation that he thought had a ton of potential. And so I'm sure he didn't want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's a bit of a shame what happens here, you know? I mean, it's good that they took a break, right? Like the X-Men could have turned into something worse, you know?
Yeah. They could have reached their peak and then had pretty bad 4 issues to end their run into cancellation.
I just mean, who knows what would have happened if, I don't know. Anyway, Sal Buscema did an issue.
Yeah. A legendary Marvel cover artist. He is the younger brother of John Buscema, who's already established at Marvel at the time and also has his own legendary career. Sal had a 10-year run on the Incredible Hulk. He had an 8-year run on the Spectacular Spider-Man. He was when they launched the Spectacular line, he was the inaugural artist. He was originally brought in by his older brother, John, who back in the 50s, he had done some inking for, but after kind of bouncing around the army a few careers, he got pulled back into Marvel. The first work he was thrown was in 1968 to be the inker for The Coming of Gunhawk. Gunhawk was a popular character at the time, I guess.
Are you sure?
Not a popular character. It was a character that was supposed to be popular because it was a collaboration between Werner Roth and Jerry Siegel, who is the co-creator of Superman.
Right. And it's the 2 words that people love the most. Gun and hawk.
That's right. You can't get a better hero. I don't know what that hero did. I think it was a cowboy, actually.
Yeah, he was a cowboy.
But it is not published until 1970, which means this issue of the X-Men actually came out before the first work that Sal was ever given on Marvel was published.
Wow. But he had been published this wasn't his first published work for Marvel.
This is not his first publishing with Marvel. I think it might be his first like drawing credit, his penciling credit.
Okay. Interesting.
Which isn't a good sign. I mean, again, he's a legend, but it's not a good sign for how they're treating this title right now. The X-Men is just pulling in the young people to fill in gaps. A couple other interesting things about Sal Buscema. He drew on Walt Simonson's incredible Thor run, just like the definitive run for Thor. Yeah. He is the co-creator of Starhawk of the Guardians of the Galaxy, another Hawkman.
That's the weirdest character too. Have you seen that guy?
Yeah, it's a strange one. But he's also the co-creator of a very normal character, Jean DeWolf, friend of Spider-Man's.
Oh, I don't know her.
Is the death of Jean DeWolf is like a defining Spider-Man run. It's very good. He also, just a fun fact, won an award for his portrayal of Tevi in a community theater production of Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, cool.
How about that?
And this isn't a bad issue art-wise. It's a little Marvel style, right? Like it's a little Marvel House style.
Yeah, it's very it's very Kirby style guide.
Right. And it's, it's not bad. It's just going from Neal Adams to this feels bad.
Yeah, it's a pill to swallow for sure.
So, yeah, I don't know.
There's not much that happens in this issue. We do get two really good Warren moments. Number one, everybody's around mourning the professor. They discover that they got to go find the Hulk. They hop in their strange jet. They take off. Warren this whole time has just been flying around outside. He says, "Hey, where are you guys going? Please open the hatch. I want to join you." And they don't. I wouldn't either if I was mourning my father figure and one of my brothers was just goofing off. Another great moment is the Hulk.
Yeah.
Seems to have calmed down a little bit, seems to be trying to not reason with the X-Men, but like he doesn't necessarily want to fight them. But they're mentioning Bruce Banner. So the Hulk says, "You got to stop mentioning Bruce Banner right now or else I will smash you." The next words out of Warren's mouth are, of course, Bruce Banner. So the Hulk smashes them.
Yeah. Well, goodbye, X-Men.
Yeah. Well,
we hardly knew ye.
Not goodbye to Mutant Menace. We are continuing, if I don't want to spoil anything, but the X-Men do pick back up
eventually.
Post 1970, yeah.
Yes. And we'll be covering the gap in between.
Damn right we will. We're going to the Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages. The Epic Collection for that era is actually called It's Always Darkest Before the Dawn, which is also interesting. We'll have to talk about that as it goes. There's some weird serendipity with that title where there's some characters that say that phrase.
It's got a bit of prescience to it where it's like, oh yeah, this is very bad for the X-Men, but they're going to come back and own the comic book world.
Yeah. I don't know. I think at some point we'll see Roy Thomas again, but I don't think for like a really long time. I don't think we'll see Roy Thomas again until like the 90s.
He had a good run. That's fine.
We'll see Sal Buscema again.
Nice.
He does an issue of Magic, and he does
New Mutants.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. For pretty much goodbye, Roy Thomas. Goodbye, Werner Roth.
Yeah.
I think goodbye, Neal Adams. Goodbye, Gary Friedrich, Arnold Drake.
What about Sam Rosen? Sam Rosen stick around as the letterer?
I don't know. We'll find out. I guess we'll find out.
All
right. Well,
what are your thoughts, Matt? What do you think about this little run here?
Okay. Did you ever play with whoopee cushions as a little kid?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. You know how sometimes they just like be positioned wrong? And instead of making like the squealy fart noise, it would just be like
Yeah. Like a quiet fart noise.
Yeah, it'd just be like that's what this feels like. It feels like Neal and Roy blew up a whole whoopee cushion, and then your aunt or whatever sat on it, and it was just like, and she didn't even notice.
Don Heck sat on it.
We went out with less than a whimper,
Yeah. It is a rough landing, and I mean, we keep treating it like it's our perspective that they reached this height and then kind of fell from it. But month after month, that's what the readers would have been seeing here too, right?
No, and they knew. The creators knew it. Everybody knew what was happening, right?
Yeah. There are There's an interesting bit of Stan's soapbox history here as well. The stories here feel very self-contained. They stopped sort of trying, like Kazar is 2 parts, but after that it's 3 individual stories.
Yeah.
Back in, I think it was issue 61, Stan's soapbox, the monthly column that he wrote that got published in all Marvel Comics, was saying, hey, we've heard your feedback. What we're going to do is stop trying to tell these longer stories. We hear you. You're sick of story arcs. You want self-contained issues.
Weird.
I know. And I thought it was a joke at first, but then we read these 3 issues. And in issue 65, there's a new Stan soapbox that says, okay, we've heard your feedback in response to discontinuing longer story arcs. There are many more people writing to us, letting us know they love the long story arcs and that we should bring them back. Stan even goes on to say, I wasn't really going to do it anyway, which of course isn't true, because before they can get back to story arcs, the X-Men put out 3 self-contained stories.
That's funny. I mean, and this next era, the early 70s, is all about 2 to 5 issue story arcs.
Yeah. It's like
5 is maybe a little much, but 2 to 3 issue story arcs.
Yeah, it's sort of it becomes the template, right? Every comic's doing it. And then as they get into the 80s, every comic is going on these like 25 issue story arcs.
And I think it's because of what we're about to, in a couple episodes here, we'll see like Chris Claremont then takes that. It's like, okay, not only am I going to do 2 to 3 issue story arcs every time, I'm going to seed things 2, 4, 7 years in advance. Yeah.
And I'm going to do it across 7 titles.
Yeah, of course. And then it gets totally out of hand and they have to kind of reel it back in the trade paperback era. But, it's all...
It's history. It is a fascinating story, and we are going to get there. But it seems like we've really sort of reached the end of an era. We keep saying it. End of an era.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of... I think you could, like, listeners are probably picking up on this. Like, I think we're a little bummed.
It is, it's sad.
Right, because this part is done, right? That's the thing, is like, we had this interesting, wacky, not amazing, but fascinating little comic book, and it is gone forever.
It took a chance, too, right? Like, at the time, you had Iron Man, you had the Hulk, you had the Fantastic Four, which I understand were built on taking a chance at it. That's not necessarily what comic books were at the time.
Right.
But as soon as that formula started to get even the least bit stale, they brought out the Avengers and they brought out the X-Men.
And I think those are 2 very different theories. I think the Avengers is, what if we bring everybody together? And unlike the Justice League, we'll make them have a dynamic together. All your favorite heroes are here, but they are still your favorite. They're not just
the team. They're still all their individual personalities.
Yes,
which is what the Justice League was struggling with at the time, right?
Right, and it makes them clash. It makes them like argue and dislike each other and quit the team and stuff, and new people come on. While the X-Men was like, here's a slightly different concept of what the Fantastic Four idea could have been, right? Like Fantastic Four, they're a family who love each other but squabble, and they were bombarded with cosmic rays, and now they fight threats to Earth, and they're very famous. On the other side, this is a chosen family of people who were born this way that are sort of sour about it and not famous. They are infamous, and they have to fight threats from within their own community. It's like this this shadow, it's like the shadow self of the Fantastic Four.
Right. And the trademark of Marvel at the time is the everyday problems of superheroes. And this was like the X-Men was the title that actually made that feel grounded. Like, it's not superheroes arguing with each other over superhero issues. It's teenagers, like dealing with their emotions while they have to also be superheroes.
It's strange, Pat. I thought I would be like really excited to get to the Claremont years, but yeah, I like, as we are trying to wrap up this episode and just continuing to rant, like I'm feeling, I think I'm doing that because I'm surprised by my own emotions here. Like I'm bummed.
Yeah, we loved these guys.
Yeah, I can't believe we're saying goodbye
despite
to them.
all their
like,
flaws.
Yeah, this is such a weird sensation.
Let's pick it back up,
okay,
Matt.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Pat Steals and Deals.
There's a Pat Steals and Deals today?
There is still, despite the cancellation of the X-Men, a Pat Steals and Deals because it is only $1. Once again, we're looking at math that is too hard for me to do. So we'll say this is probably around $12 to $15 in today's money, which is, look, it's $1. That's always a good deal if you see something that's costs $1, no matter how much that translates to today.
Yeah.
The title of this ad reads, "Nobody Loves the Hulk." Great new rock song on 45 RPM stereo record, plus second hit, Better Things. Available only through this ad. Send $1 postpaid to Queen City Records, New Rochelle, New York. It's Hulkerific. Now,
Pat,
this is, yes.
You have included a YouTube link here.
I absolutely have. You can find this song.
We're going to play fuck it. We're going to play the whole thing.
We're analyzing it. The Traits were formed in Pelham, New York in 1967. This is their only, I want to say their only hit, but it seems like aside from the B-side of this 45, it might be their only song.
Okay.
Nobody Loves the Hulk. It was publicized by Marvel Comics. This was a group of high school students. They were a very popular band at Pelham Memorial High School, the only public high school in Pelham, New York. Prior to that, they had only appeared on like a local compilation record for a battle of the bands. And this was it. This is their story. Nobody really knows what happened to them because they were just high school students that got this deal, recorded a record, sold all the rights to Marvel, and then went on about their lives.
Jeez.
Did sell about 2,000 copies this single.
Okay, so
Nobody Loves the Hulk.
They made $2,000.
The Pentagon announced that the Hulk has to be destroyed. They shot him with H-bombs. The Hulk only became annoyed. All he wanted to do was settle down and get employed.
Wait.
Nobody Loves the Hulk.
We're going to listen to this. Here, pull up the YouTube video. We'll sync. All right. Okay, they sound like high school kids, right? Like there's...
Yes, it's very garage rock. Rick Jones mentioned.
Oh, but hold on. Pause. So Rick Jones was about to go up in a blaze of glory. So what they are positing here is that Bruce Banner stole the heroic moment of Rick Jones.
That's all right. Rick Jones gets his. He's got plenty of glory to go around.
All right, let's start again. Let's start at 20 seconds. Oh, that's pretty good. His molecules have been rearranged into the Hulk.
It's pretty good.
Hulk as a monster is ugly, oversized, and green. But it's mean to call him ugly.
He's ugly. Except for the Mark Ruffalo version.
Yeah,
that was very handsome.
Okay, this is a catchy chorus, though.
It is. It's got a little, like, pre-punk, The Who feeling to it.
Okay, hold on, pause. We don't allow no green-skinned people in here. That's definitely like a social commentary, right?
Yeah, they are speaking from the perspective of the people that don't love the Hulk here. I don't think I don't think they're making a
No,
statement about
of
their
course,
feelings on
yeah,
it.
of course. But what they're doing is they're saying we're supposed to be obviously on the Hulk side, so they're just like sneaking in some little comment about racism here.
Yeah, good for
Yeah.
them. High
Yeah.
school, as a couple high school kids in 1969.
All right, 105. Let's go. All right. Okay.
They shot him with H-bombs. The Hulk only became annoyed.
These kids are having fun. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. There's an energy here. There's a sincerity to it. They are Hulk fans for sure.
Yeah. All right, says it again.
And then they fucking rock out for another minute.
Is that really just like the rest is just instrumental?
I think they go back to the chorus once or twice. But
all right, we can fade it out. That was interesting. Okay.
It's a real song.
It's like a very sloppy version of the garage rock sort of revolution at the time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like this could have been on God, what was that collection? That garage rock collection?
Are you thinking of Renville Records Presents Battle of the Bands Volume 1? Featuring the Traits?
No, I'm thinking of the Nuggets series by Rhino Records.
Okay.
Or I think it was by Elektra Records. I guess it was reprinted by Rhino Records. But it's got like the electric prunes and the human beans.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Let's see, what else does it have on it that we know? Like the Standells, maybe. Anyway, the Turtles are on it. But it's like, yeah, it's just because like there was this massive explosion post Beatles of just garage rock bands, people playing songs in their garage and not getting very far. Steppenwolf is on there. It feels like this could have been lost. Strawberry Alarm Clock. This could have been lost deep, deep, deep in like Nuggets Volume 7.
Yeah, yeah. If there's one thing that we know about the Marvel bullpen, it is that they love early prog rock.
Yeah,
constantly mentioned.
This is interesting. Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing. This is the one Pat Steels and Steals that I would buy.
Wait, you said you would buy the book safe in just last episode.
Yeah, okay, but I didn't commit to this. I hope you didn't already spend that $1. I didn't commit to this.
Well, I sent it out. We'll see how long it takes them to send it back to me. Your birthday is coming up.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mutant Menace for the end of the X-Men.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Thanks, Pete, for being here. You can follow us on Instagram, Mutant Menace Pod. You can email us, mutantmenacepod@gmail.com. What else can they do, Pat?
They can send along their thanks to Krills Wilson for all of our incredible music, as well as Julia Selly for her portrayal of Trish Tilby.
This should, if you guys didn't hear it, go back and listen to our bonus episode where we cover the origins of Angel and Beast with the two lovely folks from Escape the Mojoverse.
Another very funny, very interesting X-Men podcast.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Our next two episodes are going to be the Dark Era. So we're going to be covering stuff like Hulk 150, Amazing Adventures, Avengers, Captain America, Defenders, Hulk. Oh, the original Hulk 180, 182.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to meet some very interesting characters.
Yeah, maybe I'll beep out where I said. I'll beep that part out too. This is probably also your last chance if you want to email in and try to join us for our bonus episode, The Story So Far. If you want to throw your name in the hat, we'll do it like a random. We'll a roll of a dice or something, as long as
Yeah.
there's
A random name generator until we get a name that matches one of the people that emailed us.
But yeah, so we'll do that bonus episode, and then we're off on the Chris Claremont era.
Oof.
So Pat,
I think there's only one thing left to do, Matt, and that's close out the show the way we do it every week.
Sure. So why don't you just say our catchphrase? Yeah.
As always, a frog in the hand, my friend, is worth a brain in the bush.
And I'm gone, little leader.